Hello, everybody. How's it going? Welcome to my Game of the Year show for 2021. Now, normally, I do a really big show. I invite people on, and in past years, it's lasted like 4 hours. For those who don't know, I just moved, and so I haven't had time to plan anything. So this year, the show is basically an abbreviated version, but we're still going to talk about games here for the next probably hour or so. I'll give you my top 5, and we will also be doing some categories. Categories that we have this year are Best Graphics Artistic, Best Graphics Technical, Best Music Soundtrack, Best Game I Didn't Play, Best Ongoing Game, and then my most anticipated game for 2022. So we will go ahead and start with those artwork categories. And just to tell you the difference between what I consider Best Graphics Artistic and Best Graphics Technical, a technical game is what I consider a game that is trying to go for like realism or hyper realism, just like on a technical level, where an artistic game has a very, very nice art style. So we will go ahead and start with Best Graphics Artistic. And the game that has won this category for me is a game that came out of a brand new studio. And this studio was actually a design studio that decided that they wanted to go ahead and make their first game. So the winner is Kena, Bridge of Spirits. We did an entire playthrough of this game on stream. It essentially looks like you're playing a Pixar movie. It is that good. But it's just got that awesome Pixar art style to it. And there's a lot of games that came out this year that have great art styles. A bunch of them that, I played and, did on stream. But this one just absolutely had to stand out because of not only how good it looks, but how well it played as well. But just, you look at what I'm showing on screen right now, and it's like you're running around as Kena, and you got your little jelly beans like following you around, and it's just an absolutely fantastic game. And it was a PlayStation PC exclusive. Wonder if at some point it'll actually come over to Xbox, but this game, I think, is on sale right now. So if this type of art style, if this type of game interests you at all, make sure you definitely go ahead and check that out and pick it up. So we'll switch over and go get into the next artwork category, which again is Best Graphics Technical. And the interesting thing about this category this particular year is, at least for the games that I played, there was actually a lack of technical art style games. There were so many in the artistic category this year. But yeah, just the technical games, it's like I either didn't play them or there just weren't that many this year. And from the ones that I did play, from the ones that I saw, there's a clear winner in this particular category. And it's Forza Horizon 5. The best open world car game that's ever been done. And they actually did some really interesting behind the scenes things for this particular game. And they talked about, like, they went to Mexico and they captured the sky, and it was like 8K or 10K, some like craziness. And then they went into all the details showing stuff like, here's what they did with like the rivers and the landscape, and just, it is a technical marvel for a car racing game. It looks absolutely fantastic. And generally, when it comes to the technical category, or when it comes to like any category, doing car games, in my opinion, is easier than trying to come up with something from scratch. So if you're doing, let's say, a sci-fi game, that is all stuff that you have to invent from scratch. Where a game like this, these cars are real. You just go and take pictures of them and then just render them in a game. But even with that being said, what they've done is just a technical masterpiece at how this game looks and how it feels and how it plays. So absolutely fantastic for Forza Horizon 5. Really, really good stuff. Next up on the list, we are going to do the Best Music Soundtrack category. Now, a lot of you are probably thinking, it's got to be Guardians of the Galaxy, right? No, it is not. And my reason for that, it's almost going back to what I said about Forza, where if you just go out and you buy the licensed tracks, if you go out and you just buy really good music, that's cheating in my book. So for me, for the Best Music Soundtrack category, it always has to be something that they made fresh and new for a game. And I would almost go back to what I was also saying about the technical art category, to where there really weren't that many games that came out this year that had like really, really good soundtracks. There's like some years where it's like, oh, here's 5, 10, 15 games that have just amazing, amazing soundtracks. But really, for me, there was maybe only a handful or less. But without further ado, do you guys even remember that I played this game? Best Music Soundtrack goes to a game about music. As we're looking at Carl Weathers, it is The Artful Escape. A game where you are, rocking your way across the galaxy, I guess? So, yeah, game about music has to take the category, right? The game is bonkers. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. I got to make sure that those videos aren't still playing. Got to remember to pause the videos. Next up, we'll jump into the best game that I didn't play. And honestly, there were a lot of best games that I didn't play. I mean, you take a look at like Death's Door and Ratchet and Clank, and you could maybe even throw in like Endwalker. But in the end, I feel like there's one game that for me popped out as this is probably the best game that I didn't play this year. And that is going to be Returnal. And for those who don't know, Returnal is essentially Hades if it was a sci-fi third-person shooter. So it's a PlayStation exclusive. PS5, actually, I think as well. It's not on PC. But I've just heard so many amazing things about this game. I've watched a bunch of gameplay on it. And it's got that loop like Hades has. A lot of those roguelike elements where you're doing your runs and you're unlocking stuff and you're gearing out and you're getting stronger per run. So this is definitely one of those games that if I can ever find the time, I would love to go back and actually grab it. But I know so many people that this is their game of the year. Or if it's not in their game of the year, then it's like in their top 3. But it's just a great little sci-fi mystery made by, and off the top of my head, I want to say the company that made this game, this is only like their second or third game, I think. But yeah, absolutely little fantastic sci-fi game. I found a gun on the ground. How did that get there? Ooh, the mystery, the plot thickens. The plot thickens. Next category, we will jump into the best ongoing game. Now, for this one, this doesn't necessarily have to be a game that I played, but just like what I'm seeing in the wider gaming industry. And the answer to this is so incredibly simple. And I'm going to show footage that is hopefully not a spoiler, because I wanted to be really careful with that. But the best ongoing game, 100% Final Fantasy XIV, with their launch of Endwalker. For those who don't know, this game is essentially the biggest comeback in the history of gaming. This game launched, and it was so bad they shut it down. They redid it, they brought it back, and it is now the #1 MMO out there. They launched Endwalker about, month and a half ago? Something like that. And it's just receiving fantastic reviews. They're saying it's the best MMO expansion to ever come out. I personally have watched 3 other content creators go through a bunch of Endwalker, including the last 3-4 hours. And all 3 content creators that I watched were just completely drained physically after Endwalker. The tears were flowing. And I've just seen that from so many people. And I really wish that so many other MMOs would be able to produce or convey the emotion of storytelling that this game was able to do. It's absolutely crazy. I really wish, because to me, the big downside to this game is the fact that it's not fully voiced. If they could somehow come up with the money to fully voice this game, it would be like legendary status. And you guys know me, there's other MMOs that I play, some of them that are fully voiced. I just wish that they would be able to do storytelling like on this level. And maybe they will with their next expansion. I guess we'll see. But it's just crazy on how this game has been slowly building up. And then now this year, it exploded. In fact, and somebody mentioned it in chat, right now, you can't even buy this game. If you're a new player who wants to play this, you can't. They have stopped selling it because they're having, of course, due to COVID and the issues of the world, they've actually come out and said they cannot build or buy a server right now. It's like they've tried and they can't. And so basically the servers are player capped and they're like, sorry, but nobody else can play. There's nothing we can do. So yeah, just absolutely crazy what they were able to do with this game. Absolutely insane. And then our final category is going to be the most anticipated game for next year. And as I know a lot of you have heard me repeat many a times on how this year was kind of like an off year. Generally speaking, throughout the history of gaming, the year after we get new consoles is considered an off year because there's a transition that happens. This year we still had a ton of great games, but you could tell that like the AAA level was just not there. And so now next year, there's 1 million games coming out. And so it's like, what do you even do for your most anticipated game? It could be God of War. It could be Breath of the Wild. It could be, Elden Ring. There's so much. So I'm going to go a little bit different with my choice on this. And I'm actually going to say it is going to be this game, which is Marvel's Midnight Suns. The last several Marvel games that they have released have been absolutely incredible. Whether you talk about the couple of Spider-Man games, you talk about Guardians of the Galaxy, which came out this year, or any of the other ones. It's like all of a sudden the Marvel games have just hit, and they're all fantastic. And so I'm like, all right, they're doing the Midnight Suns storyline, and they've already announced in this game that for the first time, the character that you play is going to be a new hero that has been created for this game in association with Marvel. And I believe the hero's name is called the Hunter. In addition to that, this is also being done by the XCOM devs, and I love XCOM. So it's like, yeah, sure, a Marvel turn-based XCOM-ish game? I am totally on board. Let's do this. But yeah, everything they've shown so far looks absolutely fantastic. So that's the Hunter character. I don't know I think you can be a male or a female. But yeah, showing Blade there, showing Doctor Strange. There's Sabretooth. So really nice classic skins on some of the characters. Pretty cool stuff. Does Wolverine pop up here? Maybe? I mean, the Hunter's dead. And the game right there. Yep, there he is. Wolverine has entered the fight. But yeah, very, very cool stuff, guys. So that is going to wrap up our category part of this. So let's go ahead and move on to the big five. What are my top 5 of the year, including my personal game of the year? So let me load this up here real quick. So let's go ahead and start with number 5. So number 5 is a game that that popped up at E3. I want to say during the Microsoft conference, probably a good solid like 4 or 5 years ago. And then it kind of went silent. And then it was either this year or last year that it once again popped up at E3. We saw some trailers, and overall the concept of the game was like very interesting. Like potentially a style of game that we had never seen before. And I believe initially the game was being made by one guy, but then after it was shown, it kind of blew up and he had like a small team. And then on top of that, he was able to recruit some very high-end talent. So my number 5 is 12 Minutes. This is that game that starred William Dafoe, Daisy Ridley, and James McAvoy. But it really impressed me by how you can essentially do a game from a top-down perspective. You're in just this apartment. There's a couple rooms. The game had, 7 or 9 different endings? But it's all about just trying to figure out what the mystery is. And then you figure out that you're actually in a time loop. And if you mess up, then it resets. And you have to take what you learned in the previous loop into the next loop. And only your character remembers what happens. And so the wife character, you have to try and explain it to her every single time. Like, all right, listen, William Dafoe, he's going to come in the door and he's going to try and kill us. Right? But just the overall concept of the game was really, really cool. It does kind of come down to like basic elements. And then again, just trying to figure out the pattern, figuring out what you can and can't do, trying different things like I'm going to try and stab William Dafoe, or I'm going to hide in the closet. I'm going to electrocute William Dafoe. What happens if I throw a cup of water in his face? And it's just a game of trial and error. Visually, it looks Really, really nice for the type of game that it is, and I had a really good time with it. There were definitely some times where I would get frustrated, and then I remember when I streamed this, I was like, chat, I'm out of ideas. What are we gonna do to figure out how to progress this? But no, just in the end, it was really interesting to see what happened in the story, and just to sort of see how it all ended. But there you go. That's my number 5, 12 minutes. So pretty cool stuff. Next up is my number 4. Where's my video? There's it is. Actually, let me. Actually, that's fine. That's fine. So my number 4 is a game series that I've never played. I'm generally a fan of this type of game, but I've just never played this particular series. And I think when it was shown at the Microsoft press conference, I was like, it looks cool. Don't know if I'll actually play it. But this is one of these games that really, I only played it because of Game Pass. And Game Pass, as you've probably heard the saying, is the best deal in gaming. And it's only going to get better, which is insane. You're paying, what? I think the first month is like $1. But after that, you're paying, what, $8, $9 a month or whatever for like so many games. And it's so easy just to like install it, give it a shot, and, uninstall it if you don't like it. But yeah, this particular game, I don't think I can really do too much more of an intro on it. We've already seen it once today, and that is going to be Forza Horizon 5. It is hands down the best open world racing game that's ever been done. There's a lot of other companies like Ubisoft with The Crew that have tried to do these open world games, and just for whatever reason, it just has not worked for them. But the way that they did it with this particular game, I think it just resonated with more people because they almost went with more of an MMO aspect with it. I'm going to go ahead and skip ahead in the video. And it's like you're just driving around in the open world, and it's like you see people driving around. And you can even, you do stuff like this. Like I basically drove up to a spot, and it's like, oh, do you want to begin a race? And it's like, yeah, sure. And even if you're doing it against just AI, if you have friends who are playing this game, they actually show up in your game even though they're not online. So like right here on the screen, you can see Balaboy, you can see Anard, you can see JT, 7, 8, and 9. Those are all people who are on my friends list, and it just put them in the game. Also, if they have a car that is in the same class that you are, it'll put their car in, which is just absolutely insane. So it's just done an incredible job of like feeding in all of these social elements into an online racing game. And then I'd say kind of part 2 on that is the game doesn't force you to do stuff that you don't want to do. So like for me, I prefer the motorsports series because I like track racing. I like, pavement racing. And so that is what I prefer to do in this game. There's like all kinds of modes where it's like, oh, hit bowling pins or donkeys or whatever. And I'm like, that's not my thing. And I never did any of it. But you get a story mode as an option, and it's like, here's dirt racing, here's track racing, here's drag, here's drift or whatever, and you just do what you want. And then, from there, or on top of that, you're kind of leveling yourself as well, because you have a car, and you can take any car and essentially do anything with it. And for people who are really, really into the simulation, if you want to go in there and be like, all right, I want this much tire pressure and this much wedge, and let's mess with the anti-roll bar, you can do that. But if you're like, I don't care about any of that, and I just want to race, you don't have to mess with any of it. Or there's settings in there for just auto upgrade, just whatever. You can do that. So it's really a game that kind of works for anybody who enjoys any kind of racing, which is really, really cool. And I think the final point I'll make on this is the accessibility is the word I'm looking for, is really, really good in this game. They're actually doing something in the accessibility that's never been done before. And I don't think they've patched it in yet because I think they're still working on it. But they're actually going to have like a full-on, like on-screen person doing a sign language, which is really cool. In addition to like all the other stuff that they've done. So yeah, if you have any interest in racing games at all, especially if you have Game Pass, give this game a try. I think you'll like it. Or even if you're someone who just likes MMOs and you're like, let's try an MMO car game. You know, give it a shot. Yeah, you might like it. Grab some water here real quick. Spin. Give me. There's two of me. That's no good. All right. Game number 3. We're starting to get into the good stuff now. Where is my... There it is. All right. So game number 3. I'm a very, very big fan of Dragon Age Origins. Dragon Age Origins is a game that I have played over and over and over again. It's one of my favorite games of all time. And I have always been looking for the next Dragon Age Origins. There's a lot of games that have come out and have been close. You can look at something like, Pillars of Eternity or those games. But it seems like they're always just missing like a little something. Until this game came out. This game is the closest thing I've seen to Dragon Age Origins ever. And in some ways, it surpasses Dragon Age Origins. I'm also a big fan of D&D. And any type of game that is similar in nature. So, my number 3 game this year is Solasta Crown of the Magister. When it comes to a full-on D&D experience, you pretty much have this, which is fully released, and then of course everybody's keeping their eye on Baldur's Gate 3. Now, of course you look at something like Dragon Age Origins, which is real-time with pause, and this game is straight up D&D turn-based. But the amount of customization that you're able to do with your characters in this game completely destroys Dragon Age. Like all of the Dragon Ages. And when you take a look at, again, Dragon Age or similar games, a lot of times you design your character and then you get party members, right? This game, you design your entire party. So generally when you are in the character creation for the first time, and I think I can actually maybe find that here in the video. Yeah, here we go. If it'll load. But you're literally going through like all of the detailed stuff that you would see in something like D&D, and you are designing your entire party. And what makes this game really cool, kind of based on that, is the fact that this game is fully voiced. So your custom characters are fully voiced. And you actually get to pick from like multiple voices. They ended up recording all the lines, male and female, in like 4 or 5 different voices, which is like incredible. Normally games don't do that. Now, one trade-off would be the story or the storytelling or even the writing in this game isn't maybe as good as something like Dragon Age, but it's still like a very good, solid, D&D type story. But if you're someone who's looking for just a really solid RPG with the turn-based combat, the dice rolling, all that stuff, this is one of the best games out right now. And of course, with Baldur's Gate 3 around the corner, we'll have to see how that game turns out. But I've played some of Baldur's Gate 3, the early access, and I like the combat in Solasta better. So hopefully Baldur's Gate 3 will be able to tighten things up a little bit. See if I can find some more combat for those who have maybe not seen it. What is this resolution, YouTube? What are you doing to me here? Takes back to 1440. There we go. That looks much better. But just a very, very solid turn-based combat system. It's one of the better ones that I've seen. But it just, for me, it scratches the itch of D&D. It scratches the kind of what I was looking for from Dragon Age Origins. And it just does a really nice hybrid game that's like everything that I'm looking for. And they're still patching this game. They actually just added 2 more classes. So I don't know if when they're done they'll actually have every D&D class or what. And again, same thing with Baldur's Gate 3. Baldur's Gate 3 Early Access is missing all kinds of classes. But yeah, in the end, Solasta, absolutely fantastic, D&D style RPG. Definitely give it a shot. It's probably on sale right now too with the Steam sale going on. Yeah, really, really good stuff. All right, moving on to the final 2. And before I do that, where's my video? There it is. I just want to mention that for my top 2, either of these games could have been my game of the year. I could easily make a case for either of them. The other thing is when you're comparing my top 2 and my bottom 3, there's a gap. So like these top 2 games impress me so much more than the bottom 3. And again, I thought Solasta is amazing. Absolutely amazing. I'm trying to think how many hours I have in Solasta. I want to say it's like over 50, 60 hours. But yeah, it's like, here's the bottom 3. Here's the top 2 up here. So this is, for these last 2, this is the order I decided to go in here. Actually, let me find a good spot here real fast in the video. Okay, here we go. Actually, no, let me go right. Just trying to find a good spot to show you guys. Yeah, okay, here we go. Here we go. This is the crazy stuff. All right, my number 2 game. This is a game that popped up at E3 for the first time. Again, I think Microsoft conference. Popped up at E3 probably like a solid 5 or 6 years ago. And we all sat here and we watched the trailer for this game. And we were like, what the hell did I just watch? What is this? It makes 0 sense. And then it went away for like 3 or 4 years. We didn't see it. And then finally, the last E3, it popped up again, or maybe even the last couple E3s. And again, they kept showing new trailers. And it's like, what am I looking at here? What is this? It's like you're just showing like nonsense. What is this? And this is another one that the nonsense had me intrigued enough to where I may have just bought the game, but it was on Game Pass. So I was like, I'm just going to try it and see what the heck this thing is. And then I tried it. I streamed it for you guys. And I was almost immediately hooked. I'm like, oh, it's this kind of game. Which the trailers did a terrible job of explaining what this game was. So before I get any further in my explanation, my number 2. Let's lick some toads, chat. It is the Artful Escape. This game is just bonkers. Everybody grab your fuzzy Yodas. Take a good lick. Just go, pew. This game completely took me by surprise. It legit blew me away. And it took like a good hour to figure out what this game was. And it's essentially and I had a really good like quote line for this game. Let me see if I can remember what it was. It was something like, this is a rock and roll themed, story driven, rhythm based adventure game. Starring like Carl Weathers. Let's pipe in some audio here for a second. There goes Carl Weathers. He's just floating off because, you know, why not? And there they go. So you can probably tell this game has a fantastic art style, great voice acting, visuals, sound design. It's got a lot going for it. Hey, other me was right. Look at that. But no, the entire game is essentially a character creator as well, which I don't think I've ever seen done in another game, especially with this particular style. It's all about this teenager, or maybe he's in his like early 20s, going through this adventure, and you are building his character, actually like assigning tiles, doing his wardrobe, all this stuff to try and make him something. But it's highly unusual. I can't say like, oh, this is like this game. There's like nothing else quite like this game out there. And I am all about truly unique experiences in gaming. Because there's so many games out there, even though they might be good, where you're kind of getting the same thing over and over again. It's like, oh, it's a first-person shooter. Oh, it's a third-person shooter. Oh, it's a tactics game. Whatever. This is something new that I've never seen before. And it's bonkers. I thought it was also really crazy that this is a game that not a lot of people played. But the few people that I know that did play this, it's also like on their Game of the Year list. The other thing that's crazy is they do a lot of awards for like voice acting and stuff. And there are some major voice actors or actors in this game. Again, Carl Weathers as an example. And it's like, they did an incredible job and they didn't even get like mentioned like anywhere from what I've seen. But I don't know if they would ever do another one of these down the road, but the studio that made this game is also, I believe this is their first game, so it's going to be very interesting to see what they do down the road. But it's another one where it's like, if you have Game Pass, give this game like a couple hours, a good solid 2 hours or so, and see if it'll hook you. I almost want to play the game again just to do a different, essentially, playthrough, like a customization playthrough. Because at the very end of the game, it's like all of the customization that you did throughout the entire game, it all comes together. And it's like, here's what you did. So I almost want to just go through the entire game again to get like essentially like a different ending, so to speak. And you can see there's actually dialogue options too, which is cool. Another game that's fully voice acted. But if you have not seen this before, you can see what I'm talking about from like the last like 3 minutes that I've shown you. You're probably looking at this being like, what am I watching? It's so weird. And that's what makes it so great and so unique. So there you go, guys. The Artful Escape. It's crazy. So again, here's one of the part of the customization thing I was talking about. So this is like a step. You're like, I am the whatever, and then your name. And then so for the entire rest of your game, they're like, or whenever you talk about yourself, you're like, I am the angry Kidley, or whatever you choose. So crazy game. Absolutely crazy game. Where are you headed, Kidley? I don't know. The Cosmic Lung. Sure, why not? It's a sci-fi game. What more can I say? What more can I say? All right. YouTube, what do you? Why are you doing this to me, YouTube? You're being weird. All right. Time for my game of the year. I don't think it's going to be a big surprise. I'm sure some of you can guess what it is. So this is another game that we saw at E3 the last like 2 years in particular. And kind of like with the Artful Escape, every time they showed this game, it actually didn't show well. And that's kind of the difference between this game and Artful Escape. Is Artful Escape, I think, showed well, but we didn't know what we were looking at, right? This game just didn't show well. It's like, I guess it looks okay, but I don't know. But I knew that I had to go ahead and try it. And luckily, you get into the game, I mean, and within the first 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, it immediately hooks you. Or at least it did for me, because I'm a fan. So, just so I can start talking about it, ladies and gentlemen, my 2021 Game of the Year, Guardians of the Galaxy. Not a big surprise. Crank it up for a second.
Monster, together. Very well. Bumper one, done.
Meet you at the rendezvous point.
Gamora, take care.
So let's talk about this. I'm a big Marvel fan. I've seen like every Marvel film that's out. The first Guardians movie is my favorite solo Marvel film. And there are many reasons for that, including that it's a sci-fi movie in the Marvel Universe, which is unique. It's got really fantastic characters. It's like a group film, and a lot of the other films are not like that. Before they did that movie, the Guardians of the Galaxy were kind of like a little like side, small project group that Stan Lee and the crew did. And now they just blew up and they're like a major thing that everybody knows. So going into this game, one of my big concerns was I really like what the MCU is doing, and this is a different take on the characters. This is more closer to the comic books. And it's like, I don't know if it's going to be able to compete with what the movies are doing, and just overall just a lot of concerns. This is better than the movie. These characters are better than the movie characters, which was a complete shock to me. But kind of hitting some of the key points on the game itself, it's an action adventure party based game. And they absolutely nailed the characters, they nailed the story, and most importantly, they nailed the dialogue. This game, when you're playing it, they just non-stop talk to each other, and they're fighting all the time, and the banter just ba 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 all the time, and it's all fantastic. The game is also hilarious at times. Literally, the weakest thing in this game is the combat. It's like there's nothing special about the combat system. It's a standard, like, team-based tactics, almost third-person lock-on combat system. But if you kind of take that and you put that to the side, everything else in this game is like a 10 out of 10. And earlier we were talking about the soundtrack stuff in the music category. This game has an absolutely amazing soundtrack, which unfortunately I wasn't able to hear too much of, because when you stream it, you can't stream the copyrighted music, and it's all classic 80s stuff, right? But I did go back and played a little bit of it with the good music, and it's just, with the default music, if the game was already like a 9 or a 10, playing it with the copyrighted music cranks it up to like a whole new level, which is absolutely fantastic. But going back to what I was saying about just like Marvel games in general, where Insomniac hit it off with the two Spider-Man games, and we got this game coming out and others. It's like these Marvel games are just absolutely fantastic right now. They're just like, they're hitting on all cylinders. And I know some people that have not seen any of the MCU stuff, people who have like no interest in like Marvel superheroes, that actually played this game and they thought it was fantastic. So I think just as a regular sci-fi game, it is still able to hit all the marks, which is absolutely fantastic. But I would say, just kind of wrapping up this part of it, is I'm surprised at just how good this game ended up being after how bad all of the presentations and trailers were. And I think everybody pretty much shares that same concern. The trailers were just not good. And so that sort of had everybody concerned. And then you start playing it and it's like, this is great. Why didn't they just show it, I don't know, normally or whatever? It's almost like they were trying too hard with the trailers. It's like, let's show this moment, let's show this, let's try and make it funny, and then it just didn't work. But no, you get in and you hear all the characters and you see everything that's going on, and you got the llama running around, and somebody keeps leaving the fridge open. My God. But no, they nailed the characters. And really, I think for a Guardians game, it is all about just the characters and the writing. If you can nail them two things, then the rest of it pretty much just falls into place. Like, visually, you could have a game that doesn't look this good, or maybe doesn't even play as good. As long as you nail the characters, and you nail the writing, the dialogue, and the banter and all that, then you can just do whatever you want, Absolutely fantastic. pipe in some audio.
Right. Go ahead without me. I'll catch up.
Okay. There's a crapped out Nova Corps missile bay just on the other side. We'll meet you there.
Yellow and blue missile bay. Got
I think
it.
another thing I'll mention here briefly actually goes back into the voice acting. Another thing that you would have to nail with all the things that I just mentioned is you have to nail proper voice acting. And again, they did. Like, Gamora sounds like how she should. Rocket and Groot. I mean, Groot is like the easiest one. He only says one thing. And then, Peter Quill is, of the characters, he's the easiest one to do because he's just the human. He's like the least interesting of all the characters. It's Rocket and Gamora and Drax that essentially have to steal the show. And then you just have Groot doing like random, whatever. And they were able to absolutely nail that for this game. But yeah, here's a little bit look at the like baseline combat if there's anybody that hasn't seen it. Yeah, kind of a fast-paced third-person shooter essentially. But later on, it gets more advanced, and you're able to actually call in, like, command the other Guardians and do combos and all that fun stuff. So the huddle system is also pretty funny. I'm glad they added a little element like that in. Makes it really entertaining. But yeah, there you go, guys. That's my game of the year for 2021. Pretty cool stuff. And just kind of doing a little bit of a wrap up. There were so many great games that came out this year. Somebody in chat mentioned like Loop Hero, a little indie game that came out that was absolutely fantastic. Part of me would like to go back and beat it. I don't think I ever will, but some other games that I had on my list, we're in the middle of playing the new Age of Empires. The story mode in the new Age of Empires is really, really good. Mentioned Kena earlier. Kena is absolutely fantastic. That almost replaced 12 minutes. When I was doing my top 5, I knew what my top 2 were, as I mentioned, and I could have, as I said, made it an argument for either one of those games for Game of the Year. Like, seriously, the Artful Escape is my biggest surprise this year. That game completely blew me away. I mean, it blew me away more than Guardians did, but Guardians is a more expansive game. There's a lot more to it, but man, Artful Escape, that's a hell of a game. I knew that Celeste was going to be up there. It ended up being 3rd on the list. And again, just Celeste is just a very solid RPG experience. But yeah, Forza Horizon 5, 12 minutes. They could have been either on the list or not on the list. I kind of went back and forth. But yeah, Kena could have been 4 or 5. I had Age of Empires down as a possible top 5. If it was going to be anything, it would have been 5. And I'm trying to think, what else did I play this year that could have potentially been on the list. But yeah, just pretty solid year. I don't know what we're going to do next year with all the insane games coming out. It's absolutely nuts. It's crazy out there. Let me see if I can pull up a list here real quick. Just trying to think of what other games that came out this year that were incredibly good. Oh, I haven't even had time for Halo Infinite. I've heard that's amazing. It Takes Two, which won the Jeff Keighley Game of the Year. Haven't played that. Psychonauts 2, haven't played that. Life is Strange True Colors, I know is really good. Death's Door is another one that's on a lot of people's list. I did play Tales of Arise, but that didn't make any of my categories. Inscription is another one that I know is on a lot of people's Game of the Year list. That's another, like, card game. I actually don't know too much about it. Guilty Gear Strive, I think, is going to win categories for probably the best fighting game this year. Let's see, what else was there? I know a lot of people really enjoyed Wilder Myth. I think I played that for like 2 hours, and I couldn't get into it. So, chat. Any final thoughts, chat? Any games you guys want to bring up before we wrap up this video? Mecha Russo is saying, just finished your Dragon Age Origins run a couple of weeks back. Such a good game. Yeah. 100%. I forget, Forge Store, did you really like Loop Hero? Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say that, Line Walker. They say that Halo Infinite is one of the best campaigns. I still might try and stream that at some point. Skip ahead in the video here. YouTube is being kind of weird tonight. It's not wanting to load. I don't know what's going on with that. But yeah, I guess just kind of wrapping up the video here for YouTube. Just an incredibly solid year for games. Next year is going to be absolutely insane. For anybody who's been enjoying the First Look series videos I've been doing on YouTube, do appreciate everybody who's been watching those or watching me stream on Twitch. Thank you guys so much for the support this year. But yeah, just moved into a new place and still kind of getting everything set up and configured and all that fun stuff. And hopefully have a really awesome next year, because I do have some plans, but we'll do probably a stream here next week talking about the state of the channel type deal. Go over some stats and all that fun stuff. But yeah, for those who are watching on YouTube, thank you all so much for watching. Like, subscribe, hit the bell, do all the things, and we'll see you guys next time.